Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's story is not a crime story. It is a story which I would say that I have read books, I am on social media. I've never heard of aliens in Arab countries. That's quite unusual, especially if I would tell you that the story I have today took place during the 70s. So, what happened is that the most spoken country on these topics, like aliens and UFOs, was actually in Kuwait. This is because there were strange, I would say, events and happenings that occurred during the time period. So, some people took it as a joke, and the others, because they were in love with the fantasy and fiction, actually started thinking that that could be real. The story could be real. But we will discuss facts that actually took place in Kuwait. The story took place in 78 or 1979. So this time the people were actually living in horror because of a certain event which was more of an accident that happened to the employees of KOC, that is the Kuwait Oil Company. Now what happened? There were five people, and there were actually six people. One of them was an engineer from America, and the others were Kuwaitis. And they were all expert in their field, on the field of oil, and engineers. Now, they were informed that the main station in north of Kuwait, which is Umm Aish, something went wrong there. I mean, it had suspended. So there was a signal informing them of sent signals, of course, informing them that it has stopped or suspended. Therefore, the team of employees and the engineer here headed towards the station. When they were almost there, I mean, they were like, it was almost like 1 kilometers away from the station, they could see the station was in the middle of nowhere. It was in a desert, so they could see a weird object almost tucked to the ground horizontally. Or it was like a plane or something, and they started asking each other, "Can you see that?" And the relation of the plane being near the station, why where there's a weird looking plane actually. I think actually it was dark, so they were also a bit petrified. And you could imagine yourself in the middle of a desert and seeing the lights off the station, but seeing another object near the station which looks like a flying saucer. So, what happened that this flying saucer gradually started to fly and then disappeared in the air. They literally felt crazy and immediately got in contact with the security authorities and the oil company itself. The problem here was that the informations which were given by the engineers couldn't be gibberish because they were engineers. I mean, regular people would have maybe made a mistake, try to imitate the movies or the foreign countries, but this couldn't have happened. So the biggest shock was that the Brigadier General Mohammed Ahmed Al Hamid, who was the public security director at that time, he appeared in an interview of a newspaper on this topic, and he actually confirmed that the report was true. He didn't see it, but according to the witnesses, he said they could have seen it. So he said, yeah, it's true. And he said them the whole story, what had happened, what they had seen. So they said it could be a flying saucer. The information here and whatever was given, they reached the chiefs and other security operations. And they even reached the Council of Ministries. The whole governing body, I could say, was right now involved in the news. People say was true. Now, why were they panicking? If we would listen that people are actually involving the whole government into something they have just seen, because it was first time dealing with such kind of thing. After this whole thing was actually going on, there was a bigger shock. A bigger one than the one which happened before was that a photojournalist was interviewed. Why? Because he claimed that he had taken pictures of the flying saucer. So he said that while he was in his apartment in Hawali, which is one of the areas in Kuwait, that means that he was actually standing near the window, and all of a sudden he saw something which he thought was a flying saucer. He got his camera and he took a picture. The picture was not clear. It was not clear though. Now they have another report. Now they have the engineers and the journalists almost on the same time period saying or were considered as witnesses to something called aliens. The Council of Ministers formed a committee of Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Communication. They got them all together. And I said it was no joke. There were aliens in Kuwait. So what are they supposed to do is that they're supposed to get these fields or these people in the ministry to get together and be prepared for what's coming. Now, for the same reason and in the same way almost, the same thing happened in TV station. What happened in the main field of oil that it was suspended, this time it was the TV station. So the flying saucers, what they said, that these spaceships would have transmitted some kind of signal which could have ended into which could send some wireless image signal, interrupting any electronic device, and would actually make it suspend or make it stop working, I would say. But was it true or not? The topic had gone too far. From just people seeing a spaceship or a flying saucer, it came to actually these people sending signals. But there was no proof. The Kuwait news agency, well known as QNA, they spoke to the space scientist of Egyptian nationality who was prominent at that time, Feroz Albaz, in that era, I would say. And they were actually questioning him, and they were asking him if aliens do really exist for true. So, or the people maybe are delusional, including the engineers. Maybe that was a part of the deepest imagination. They needed some kind of analysis or interpretation to this. Well, he said that we do not deny the existence of aliens. He actually kind of ruined the whole situation by saying that why would the alien choose Kuwait? And he said he would just actually gather the information and ask these questions or these specific questions to NASA. Maybe because they were attracted by the aliens, were actually attracted to the strategic location of Kuwait, or maybe the climate, which is actually hot. To that, after the questioning, of course, he didn't get the answers. He didn't bring the answers to these questions. But then came an American scientist who was also a specialist in this field, field of spaceships or space overall. He said there was nothing at all. It could be that there could be specific kind of insects, luminous insects, and they release some kind of electrolyte particles, and it could have been entered the atmospheric field, and the effect could be of electric, that could be almost like enlightenment, and they could have formed a circular block, and as they gather together and fly like flock of birds or a swarm of insects, and that could make it look like a saucer. These luminous insects, of course, they lighten up in the dark, and you can actually, or it could be actually clear during the dark. But we're talking about 1 kilometer away, so can that happen? I don't know, but he did say, the scientist said, there's nothing to worry about. It could just have been some coincidence of some lightning or some insects or whatever. But he did assure them that there were no aliens in that field.